What's up, everybody? A very happy Tuesday morning to you here on the Refuse to Lose Territory podcast. Brady Farkas with you, as always, into the wee hours here on this Tuesday morning. The Mariners have just beaten the Chicago White Sox by a score of 6-1 at T-Mobile Park. Colt Emerson has his first Major League homer. The Mariners are 23-26. They've snapped their three-game losing streak, and they are now just one game out of first place in the very, very mediocre to average American League West. We are going to have plenty to talk about with Colt Emerson. We're going to be joined by former Mariners All-Star Mike Cameron at the end of this episode as well. We'll talk to him about Colt Emerson. We taped that interview before Monday's game and before Emerson's first home run, but Cammy was great, as he always is. A reminder, the Refuse to Lose podcast has morphed into Refuse to Lose Territory, hosted by the Foul Territory TV network. So if you are already subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you are already done. If you prefer to watch the podcast, you can do that as well. Go to YouTube, search for Refuse to Lose Territory, and subscribe to us there. And also, don't forget about the writing side of things. Myself and Taryn Kovacs doing everything we can to keep you aware of all things Mariners at MarinersRoundtable.com. You can hit join on our free community there as well to be part of the conversation. So there's a lot of different ways to follow my work or mine and Taryn's work. Again, at Refuse to Lose Territory or at MarinersRoundtable.com. Again, Mike Cameron going to stop by at the end of the episode. The M's 6-1 winners on Monday night against the Chicago White Sox. So let's start right there without further ado.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
Again, a lot to talk about with Colt Emerson, and we are going to do that plenty. But before we do just that, in a way, this win on Monday encapsulated what the Mariners need to do moving forward. The Mariners are beaten up. The Mariners are injured in multiple spots. The Mariners are losing or are missing multiple key offensive players in Cal Raleigh and Brendan Donovan. They are going to need the remaining leaders on this offense to step up and carry the load predominantly, and those guys did that on Monday night. Josh Naylor had 3 hits. Had a couple of stolen bases, created havoc on the base paths. Randy Arozarena had 2 doubles and an RBI, although the one RBI was questionable because of the obstruction call. But nonetheless, he had 2 doubles, hit a ball hard to left field down the line, hit a ball hard to dead center, elevated the ball, put it in the air, hit it for extra bases. Julio Rodriguez had a first-inning home run to set the tone. Like, that's what this team is going to need. If you don't have Cal Raleigh and you don't have Brendan Donovan, you are going to need your remaining veteran leaders to step up and help carry the offense. Of course, they can win a game here or there where Colt Emerson has a big day, or Cole Young has a big day, or J.P. Crawford has a big day, or Mitch Garver has a home run like he did in Houston. All of those things can happen and probably will over the course of the next month until Cal Raleigh and Brendan Donovan are hopefully both back in the lineup. But those are not things you can count on. The things you are supposed to be able to count on are Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, and Josh Naylor, and those guys got the job done on Monday night. And you know what? They're going to need more than just their offensive stars to help carry the load. They're going to need the starting rotation to be really good. When you are playing with one hand tied behind your back, like the Mariners are health-wise right now in a lot of ways, you're going to need your starting pitching to step up and help carry the load. And Brian Wu did that. 6 strong innings. Tough first inning, 25 pitches, battled through it, but 6 strong innings overall. The bullpen, Ferrer, phenomenal. Munoz, phenomenal. Bizzardo struggled. That's runs allowed in 3 of his last 6 appearances. So the Bizzardo meter is reading a little more iffy than we'd like it to right now. But starting pitching, check. Bullpen, largely check. Offensive output from your stars, check. Like, that's the formula for how this team needs to win moving forward until they are whole. And look, the Mariners are not the only team that is injured. Okay, Cal Raleigh and Brendan Donovan and Matt Brash and Gabe Spire and Carlos Vargas, like those are significant pieces missing from your roster, but the Mariners are far from the only team dealing with injuries. The Astros are gutted. Altuve, Pena, Hader, Hunter Brown, right? Like they're gutted. The Red Sox saw Oviedo and Sonny Gray and Roman Anthony, and there are others there on the injured list as well. Cutter Crawford, four starters I think are on the injured list for the Red Sox. The Blue Jays, we know about their issues. Santander, Bieber, Scherzer, Francis. We've seen Barger. Like other teams are dealing with injuries. Other struggling teams are dealing with injuries. The Mariners are not the only one. If the Mariners want to be the exception and the team that gets over those humps, what we saw on Monday night is largely what they're going to need moving forward. They have the ability to win games, even in the absence of Cal Raleigh and Brendan Donovan. I don't know that they're going to win at a 700 winning percentage without those guys, but they have the ability to tread water without them. But if they're going to do it, the script is going to look a lot like Monday night. I did radio, as I've said, for a decade, from 2014 to 2025. I did it for 11 years. And every year I would talk about March Madness. And someone would ask me, Brady, what do you think about an upset? Or what do you think about, how does an undermanned team get a victory in the NCAA tournament? And look, there's multiple different recipes for how an undermanned team wins games. But the answer that I always give is that if you are undermanned, your stars have to play like stars. Like that is non-negotiable. If you're going to be undermanned, it is non-negotiable that your stars, who you do have, play like stars. And on Monday night, that happened. Arozarena, Wu, Naylor, Julio, those guys all did star-like things. Ferrer was excellent, striking out Colton Montgomery in a 3-1 game at the time was the tying run. Like, that is a star-like effort from one of your most trusted relievers right now. Now, the game was not perfect. It was frustrating at times. The Mariners left on multiple runners in scoring position. Before the Colt Emerson home run, they nearly squandered 2 on and nobody out. So, again, this team is still too inconsistent offensively, but ultimately they got the job done, and Colt Emerson did provide the big swing in this game. We're going to talk about that after we get some words from Scott Braun and Eric Kratz on the national side of things.
We love our dog Bella, who splays out in the open sun on our floor like she's an underwear model, and that's why we love her so much, to scratch her belly.
She's a cutie, that Bella. And a quick message from today's sponsor, the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. If you're frantically looking for what to do with your pup when they have an issue, the program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier to get your pet the care they need. When you enroll in an ASPCA Pet Health Insurance plan, you could get a $25 Amazon gift card. It's a little treat for you while you're doing something great for your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit aspcapetinsurance.com/Amazon terms for more info. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
All right. Thank you very much, Scott Braun and Eric Kratz. Much appreciated there. We all love our pups. Let's talk about Colt Emerson, a guy that Mariners fans are going to grow to love as well. Mike Cameron is going to be with us at the end of this podcast. We're going to talk to him about Colt Emerson also. And let's just talk first impressions so far right now. 2 games played for Colt Emerson. Obviously, the home run on Monday night is the standout moment. But just in general, I think you have to be incredibly impressed with what you've seen through 2 games. Right? Like, I understand it's prisoner of the moment. I understand it's small sample size. Throw all that out for a minute and allow yourself to be excited and allow yourself to be impressed by what you've watched. Through 2 games, the moment does not look too big for him. Colt Emerson, my very first thought on Sunday, even as the Mariners were getting pummeled by the Padres, my first thought was that Colt Emerson does not look overwhelmed. 6 plate appearances to this point, and he's already homered and worked a walk. He's battled tough lefties. He's come back from 0-2. He's battled guys with elite off speed. He's done all of that in just 2 games, and he looks really, really comfortable in the batter's box, and he looks really comfortable defensively at third base as well, going back on pop-ups, catching balls over his shoulder. A phenomenal play on the line in the first inning on Monday in which he had the wherewithal to make a skip throw to Cole Young to get the force out at second to help Brian. Like, Brian Wu goes 6 innings in part because he gets out of the first inning, and part of the reason he gets out of the first inning unscathed is because of that play by Colt Emerson. Like, he just looks comfortable. He looks like he belongs. I was on the Mitch Unfiltered podcast with Mitch Levy and Joe Doyle, as I always am, on Monday, and the very first thing I said was exactly this. He does not look overwhelmed. I am excited to see where this goes from here. I am obviously allowing myself to dream, as a lot of you are. Colt Emerson doesn't need to come up here and be special. He needs to come up here and just be a good player and be the good player that he is. But I am allowing myself to dream about what he ultimately could be. And through 2 games, Colt Emerson has been very, very impressive. And he looks like a guy who's going to stick in the big leagues for a long time. I think back to, it would have been 1989. And I think back to the highlight clips that I have seen of Ken Griffey Jr.'s first at-bat in the Kingdom. And Dave Niehaus saying something to the effect of, and I may have the exact quote, I may not, but it's something to the effect of this: 25 years from now, you're going to want to say that I was here, that I saw this first at-bat in the Kingdom for Ken Griffey Jr., and Ken Griffey Jr. homered, as I recall. Maybe even against the Chicago White Sox. But was it the A's? Now I'm going to have to go back and look at that, but it might have been the White Sox. Anyways, 25 years from now, you're going to want to say that you saw Colt Emerson's first home run. I know that I am glad that I did, because this guy is a huge part of the future of the Mariners. I was on another podcast recently, and someone asked me, Brady, which team do you think is set up best for success in the AL West? And I think the A's are set up for success. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the A's are going to be a huge problem for a while, especially as they get closer to Vegas. But the Mariners are set up well for the future as well. When you talk about Julio, Cal, Naylor, all under contract through 2030, Colt Emerson under contract beyond that, Wu and Miller plus Anderson and Sloan, like, there are very good things under the hood for the Mariners moving forward in the future. Colt Emerson is a huge, huge part of that. So 25 years from now, you're going to want to say that you saw the start of it all, and I am glad that I did. Now, our own Taran Kovac at T-Mobile Park on Monday, as he is for every single home game for MarinersRoundtable.com, he provided us with some video of Colt Emerson immediately after the game, talking about that first home run of his and what he was looking for. He hit a changeup off Trevor Richards, the veteran pitcher, who had him 0-2. Colt Emerson sounding very, very analytical, very, very observational, and very, very heady about what he was seeing heading into that at-bat.
Yeah. First of all, I've seen the 2 guys get on, Hedemay, Dom, and Nails. They gave me a good idea of both lefties. So, gave me a good idea of what he was going to throw. I mean, he's only a 2-pitch guy, but he's got a really good fastball and a really good changeup. So, I was just looking for something down the middle over the plate that I can just hit a base hit right up the middle. And, got the 2 strikes early. And just fought back. And then put a good swing on a good pitch and to the Grix I had, just it went out. So, yeah.
That just sounds like a guy who studies the game, studies the pitcher, studies the situation, studies the at-bats. And he says there, Josh Naylor, who singled, Dom Canzone, who walked, I had a pretty good idea of what he did against lefties by just watching their at-bats. That is not something that you get everywhere, right? Not every player does that or thinks that way. Think about back to when you were in Little League and your coach would say, okay, you're in the hole, be watching. You know as well as I do that you didn't always do that, because I didn't always do that. But here's Colt Emerson telling you, I studied what he did against lefties, and I had an idea then how that would translate against me. Man, that's special stuff for a 20-year-old. That's special stuff for a guy that this time last year was playing in high A. I mean, we had Colt Emerson on this podcast last June, I believe at the very end of June, and he was playing for the Everett Aqua Sox. And here he is a year later in the big leagues hitting a game-sealing home run to pull the Mariners to within one game of first place. So even if that one game of first place is nowhere near the record that we think it should be, they're within one game of first place, and Colt Emerson helped do that. Now, in addition to the very strong first impression, I've been asked or commented to a lot of things about Colt Emerson, so let me just kind of run through them quickly. One, no, I am not surprised that we are seeing Colt Emerson now. Now, the injuries absolutely expedited this. The injury to Brendan Donovan, I believe, fully expedited this. I've said all along that I didn't think we would see Cade Anderson or Colt Emerson early without injury and attrition. Well, Brendan Donovan now going on the injured list for the second time, that was the injury and attrition that he needed to get the call. So I'm not surprised to see him around this time. I thought all along we would see him around this time. Look, we've been talking to Buster Olney for months. He's said for months he thought we would see Colt Emerson in May, so May is around when I had it in my mind that we would see him. Cole Young we saw last year on May 31st, and by and large, people have thought that Colt Emerson is a better prospect than Cole Young. So if Cole Young got the call on May 31st, I thought it was fair to think that Colt Emerson would get the call around May 31st or a little bit earlier. So I've had it in my mind that Colt Emerson was going to get called up soon for a bit now, and the injury situation with Brendan Donovan just made it all the more realistic that it happened at this point. So no, not surprised that we saw him now. Two, I think he's going to play predominantly third base. But Brady, J.P. Crawford has struggled at short. But Brady, what if J.P. Crawford misses a few days? Predominantly, I think Colt Emerson is going to play shortstop. Or excuse me, I think he's predominantly going to play third. I do think he will play shortstop at times. Now, there's a long runway left in this season. We have 110 games plus left in this season. Colt Emerson, I believe, will play predominantly third. I think the team wants to find him some consistency and find him a rhythm and get him a home. I think they will make third base that. But I do think you will see him at shortstop as this season goes on, whether it is for J.P. Crawford to get an off day a week, a DH day a week, J.P. Crawford is feeling a little bit under the weather, whatever it is. I think you will see Colt Emerson at shortstop, and the closer we get to October, if the Mariners are in a position to be there, then all bets are off. But by and large, I think he will play third base, and he will moonlight at shortstop when this team needs it. I still think he is the shortstop of the future. I still think he will play shortstop on opening day next year, but I think he will play predominantly third base this year. And when he does, Brendan Donovan is going to be the floater. Now, Brendan Donovan needs to get healthy first, but when Brendan Donovan gets healthy, I think he will be the floater. I think you will see Brendan Donovan at DH some days, and that means that one of Dom Canzone and Luke Raley are not at DH. I think you will see him in left field some days, which means that maybe Randy Arozarena has a day off. I think you will see Donovan at second at times, which means that Cole Young has a day off. I think that Brendan Donovan will become the utility player that a lot of people kind of thought that he was when the Mariners acquired him this offseason. But again, he has to get healthy first. No, bringing up Colt Emerson does not fix the Mariners' issues against lefties unless Colt Emerson is excellent against lefties. Now, we saw him have some really good at-bats against Noah Schultz, a tough lefty. He throws, 96 with a good sinker. But the Mariners are still left-hand dominant. They are still going to struggle by and large against left-handed pitching unless Victor Robles and Rob Refsnyder and Patrick Wisdom and Connor Joe and whatever collection of guys they have start hitting better, and Colt Emerson hits well against lefties. He does not solve their issues against lefties. They are still too left-handed dominant. They still needed to bring Colt Emerson up at this time. So there are questions about all of this. There are, The left-handed issue is a real issue, but Colt Emerson, it was time. The Brendan Donovan injury expedited the process, but I thought we were closing in on time anyways. And Colt Emerson so far through 2 games does not look like he is overwhelmed for the moment. A few other things on this. I think that moving forward, Colt Emerson and Josh Naylor are going to be really important to this team for a while. And I've been thinking about this for a few days. And admittedly, I don't know if this is a great theory, but it is something that I've been wondering. The Mariners are a team that largely has young people, like young age-wise people. But baseball-wise, there are a lot of veterans on this team, right? Julio Rodriguez is in year 5. Cal Raleigh is in year 5+. Randy Arozarena is on, year 7. J.P. Crawford is on, year 10, whatever it is. Like, the Mariners have young people, but they are a veteran roster. And one of the great things about a veteran roster is that I think the Mariners are very, very businesslike. And I have praised them for that. I've praised them for letting things kind of roll off of them. I've praised them for being on to the next. I've praised them for not being too emotional one way or the other. Being a veteran and having a steady hand about you and a steady presence about you is really, really beneficial in a lot of ways. But I am wondering, or I have found myself wondering, that in this point where the team is struggling, as they're kind of going through this malaise, the one thing I would like to see is somebody who can come and kind of switch it up a little bit. Now, what have we said about the White Sox? What have we said about the Cardinals? What is so great about those teams? They're young, they're fun, they're energetic. Now, that's really good, but young, fun, and energetic oftentimes hits a wall and breaks down and tires out, and then you're going to wish you had some of that veteran presence to steady the ship. The Mariners, I think, are largely the veteran presence. They are a very steady ship. I find myself wondering or wishing at times who's going to be the young, fun personality that's going to come mix this up. J.P. Crawford was that guy for a long time. He still has it in him, but he's not that every day. Julio Rodriguez was that at one point, and he still has it in him, but he's not that way every day. The guys who I think might be able to provide that spark, the guys who I think might be able to provide that energy to break up the monotony of the business-like nature. And again, I want to make this clear. Business-like, on to the next, here to do a job is an incredible quality to have as a clubhouse. But when you are struggling, I just want to see somebody come in and kind of break through the mold and provide the spark that those teams don't necessarily always have. Josh Naylor is that guy, right? He can play with a little bit of an edge. We saw him steal bases. We've seen him display real emotion. I think he's going to be hugely important. And I think Colt Emerson is important as well in that regard. Now, I'm not asking him to come up here and be the savior. I'm not asking him to come up and fly around and start, chest bumping people on the field. That's not what I'm asking for. But you just saw the emotion that he played with, the emotion that he displayed on Monday night after his home run. And he's saying, let's freaking go. I just feel like maybe he has more of that in him than, I saw from afar at the minor league level. So I think that Josh Naylor and Colt Emerson are going to be really important moving forward because without Cal, without some of these guys, without Donovan, without some of these guys they're missing, the team, I just think in general, is just built stoically. And it's part of the reason why I don't think they're panicked by what we've seen so far through 49 games. But if you're looking for a guy to bring the urgency and bust them out of that at times, I think Naylor and Emerson are parts of it. I also want to just give one piece of credit here and one shout out here. And I want to make sure that this doesn't go untalked about. Credit to J.P. Crawford, because when Colt Emerson hit that home run, J.P. Crawford, as always, was the guy holding the trident. You could see the genuine happiness in him to give the trident to Colt Emerson. After the game, when they went through the handshake line, J.P. Crawford doubled back on Colt Emerson to give him some love and dap him up. And that was not lost on me because people have talked about it. We've wondered about it. How does J.P. Crawford feel about Colt Emerson? Man, how does J.P. Crawford feel about Colt Emerson's deal? What is J.P. Crawford going to feel like? How can you bench J.P. Crawford if you got... We've wondered about how J.P. Crawford would handle Colt Emerson's presence, right? And I think about this all the time. I remember in the NFL, Joe Flacco was playing for the Denver Broncos, and I think they took Drew Lock at the time, Seahawks quarterback now. And they asked him, like, you know, how are you going to mentor Drew Lock? And he said, it's not my job to mentor Drew Lock. It's my job to win games. These people are protective of their positions. They are protective of their position in the game, the dollars that come with that, the resume, the stature that comes with that. If a veteran player doesn't want to embrace a young player, we may not love it, but it would be human nature. If someone asked me to embrace the intern that was going to eventually take my job, I would be bothered by that. J.P. Crawford showed you on Monday night what a good teammate looks like. Now, he told you weeks ago that he likes Colt Emerson and he's looking forward to playing with him. He's looking forward to having Emerson help them win games. He told you a month ago that he wasn't jealous, that he wasn't bothered, that he was ready to play alongside Colt Emerson when that time came. He told you that. But it's a game of show, not tell. And on Monday night, he showed you that also. And to me, I think that that's important. And I think that that's the sign of a good teammate. And J.P. Crawford, I give credit to him because this situation clearly is not easy for him. It's not Colt Emerson's fault, right? J.P. Crawford knows what it's like to be a top prospect who's going to come and usurp some veteran at some point. J.P. Crawford knows the business of baseball. He's seen it happen before. He was that guy at one point. He was supposed to be that guy with the Phillies. He ended up being that guy with the Mariners who was given a position and now is headed for a decade. So it's not Colt Emerson's fault. But J.P. Crawford showed you what a class act he is and what a good teammate he is by being the guy who's ready to embrace Colt Emerson. Again, it's a game of show, not tell. He told us a month ago. He showed us on Monday. I give a lot of credit to that. All right, let's wrap up here before Mike Cameron on a couple of news and notes here. A bunch of things kind of going on as the Mariners get ready to play Game 2 against the White Sox on Tuesday night. Now, because of the Colt Emerson home run, this podcast, I think, has taken a largely optimistic tone. Let's just remember, things haven't been all good for the last couple of days. Logan Gilbert got shelled. George Kirby got shelled. The team got swept by the Padres. The offense has been generally porous, especially with runners in scoring position. The Mariners have played too inconsistently all season. And the injuries do not help, but they were playing inconsistent before the injuries, right? I've lamented series losses against the Angels. I've lamented getting swept on the road by the Rangers, missing out on opportunities. I've lamented wasting, losing a series at home against the Royals. I've lamented wasting great starting pitching from Logan Gilbert against the White Sox and Emerson Hancock against the Royals. If you had taken advantage of those opportunities early, these injuries the situation might not be as glaring. The team needs to find some consistency, even in the face of these injuries. 8 of their next 10 series are against teams with losing records. Now, I think some of that is a fool's errand because I think, the Mets are playing better. I think that the Red Sox will probably play better by the time the Mariners get to them. So, a bit of fool's gold on that. But in general, you have an opportunity in front of you to start to build some momentum and build some consistency. You have to find a way to do it. You have to take advantage of the opportunities when you have them. My gut tells me Matt Brash will be back for the Mariners on Tuesday. Brash has been out for a little more than the 15 days on the injured list. He's made 2 rehab appearances. He wasn't all that crisp on Sunday, but he did have a strikeout. He only threw 10 strikes out of 23 pitches, but he's made 2 appearances. He was back in the dugout on Monday. I imagine he'll be activated on Tuesday. If the team wants to keep 2 lefties, they can keep Robinson Ortiz and send Alex Hoppe down. If they want to keep Hoppy because he's interesting, then they can send Robinson Ortiz down. I expect one of those two things to be done by the time we play baseball on Tuesday. We're going to see the piggyback situation on Tuesday. Bryce Miller is going to start. Luis Castillo is going to relieve. I will be very curious how it works. I told you last week I was in favor of the piggyback situation. I still think that I am, although I am becoming less warm to it as time goes on, right? I still think it's a good way to handle things for 1 or 2 times, but this is not ultimately a long-term situation, because if Bryce Miller throws 5 beautiful innings on Tuesday and the Mariners have to take him out in order to get Luis Castillo in, that's an issue. If the Mariners have to turn over a 1-0 lead to Luis Castillo in the 6th inning and he struggles, then that's going to have been an issue. So I think it's a good way to keep pitch counts up. I think it's a good way to handle egos. I don't think it's a great way long-term to handle a pitching staff, and it doesn't sound like the Mariners are going to be doing this long-term as well. Bunch of roster moves on Monday before the game. I am a little surprised to see Leo Rivas sent down just because of his value, being able to play second, third, or short. His value is a pinch runner. His value is a switch hitter. The Mariners are clearly, I think, banking on Colt Emerson to be able to be a guy they can move around. Like, if they have to, if something happens to J.P. Crawford, okay, Colt Emerson slides to short, and Patrick Wisdom goes to third. If something happens to Cole Young, then Colt Emerson can slide to second, and Patrick Wisdom can slide to third. I think they are trying to get better against left-handed pitching right now, which is why you see Wisdom here. I think you're going to see Victor Robles here ASAP. I think you'll see him by the time this team goes on the road. They're still going to need backup infielders at this point, so I would imagine that Victor Robles comes up for Connor Joe. Brennan Davis obviously got put on the 40-man roster on Monday, and that's going to spearhead the conversation we talked about last week. Now, Davis is on the 40-man roster. That is the only thing the Mariners were obligated to do, but now that he's there, he becomes a more palatable option for Dan Wilson and for Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander. I still wonder if the team could eventually move on from Victor Robles. I don't think that he's going to have a shorter runway now that we know the structure of the opt-out situation. But if Victor Robles doesn't come up and hit and Brennan Davis keeps hitting, I think he's absolutely going to be in play for the Mariners as we move forward here in the course of 2026. But I think you're going to see Victor Robles come back by the time this team goes out on the road this weekend. So 2 more games against the White Sox, and I think Robles will be back on Friday as long as everything remains healthy. So I think Brash is back on Tuesday. I think Robles is back on Friday. Hoppy or Ortiz will be sent down for Brash. I think Connor Joe will be the guy sent down for Robles. That's too bad because Connor Joe, I think, has done actually a lot of nice things. A guy who did a lot of nice things in his career as a Seattle Mariner is Mike Cameron. He was a 3-time Gold Glover. He was a 1-time All-Star in 2001 with the M's. He played for the Mariners from 2000 to 2003. He is one of the more beloved Mariners players, certainly of the last quarter century, but I'd argue he's one of the most beloved Mariners players in franchise history. Mike Cameron with us now here on the phone line. Mike, thank you for being with us. How are you?
I'm good, Brady. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing well. Good to see you again since we last saw each other at spring training in February. Look, this is coming out candidly after the opening game of the White Sox series, so we're talking before that game's happened. So I don't know if the Mariners will win on Monday or not. But can you fly to Seattle and burn some sage as you've been known to do? They could use some of it heading into the series.
Yeah, I wish I could. That's a long flight to make it right now. I'd probably make it there right now if I left right now. I'd make it around game time. So, but yeah, man, the last series was against the Padres was just kind of just kind of a dud there, and I don't know if it's because it's more significant because of the up and down for the season that's been going on. But like you just don't see our team get kind of just beat
Yeah.
like they did over this past weekend. So it just it's so much going on, Brady. You got a lot of guys hurt. We got a lot of questions. There's offensively, we got some guys that are just trying to get themselves you know, uh, in a place where they're consistent. And so it's just been up and down, and that really is just magnified within the record or the team overall. But there's some individual things that have been going very well. And so, man, it's just one of those years. And we are fortunate enough that the AL West is not a runaway type of thing right now. So, there's still time to right the ship in a sense of playing to the capabilities of what the team within itself, um, from the understanding of what they truly are as a team.
Given that you work with the organization, I don't want to pick your brain too deep about the inner workings, but I do want to just kind of draw on your 17-year experience. I think the Mariners they have young players, but I think they have a lot of young veterans. Like they have guys that have been in the league now for 5, 6, 8 years. When you are on a
Yeah.
veteran team that is struggling, how do you handle it in the clubhouse? Like when a veteran team is struggling, how do they right the ship?
Well, I mean, the best antidote is to play better. For one, I mean, we can talk about it as much as you want to. I think when you have a veteran team, so to speak, you have a better understanding of each other and what we got to do, man. So I think the onus is on the players is not to panic. um, I don't think that no one wants to panic and everyone wants to play well, but there's just going to be times where these things come together. And a lot of it has to do with, the guys that were set to start this season, been injured, off to slow starts. Um, um, it's just a lot of little things that add up to be, very big for a team that the expectations are set very high. Not amongst the people, just what the expectation is inside of the clubhouse. So I think that when you have an opportunity that they've been, kind of blessed with this year, with no one's running away with the AL West, you get a chance to kind of like, get yourself back in the running with a couple of weeks of good series, and go from there. And that's one of the biggest things is when they build up, you fall back, and it's just, we can chalk it up as baseball, but I understand that, just the inner workings and how the game is in itself, it's just inconsistent. So that's why we're kind of hovering around 500 right now.
Cal Raleigh hurt, Brendan Donovan hurt. The easy answer on the outside is, well, everybody else needs to do more. This guy needs to pick it up. That guy needs to pick it up. You as a player, how do you try to carry some of the extra slack without putting too much pressure on yourself in a situation like that?
Well, you just try to be more consistent, Brady. I mean, I think that's what we're missing. Where we always interchanging, a couple guys here and there on a nightly basis. That you're trying to get in a rhythm of playing well and playing the number one brand thing that has been a stickler for this team for over the last couple of years is starting pitching one and playing good defense and coming up with timely hitting, to give yourself a chance to allow the dominance of the team to take shape. And when you're missing a guy like Cal and he got off to such a slow start, a horrendous situation, for him, where he is. Guess I should use the word horrendous. I mean, I played too, so I was horrendous at times. But just part of the lineup that allows everyone else to settle in. So Dan is piecing people here and there, and just trying to get some production, out of different guys, and it just hasn't like balanced out quite yet. And fortunately, we're still in the middle of May, where you can kind of get an idea and get some of these guys healthy and get them back, into that part of the summer where it's going to be really important to try to play good baseball to be able to give yourself a chance to um, compete in the AL West.
It's appropriate that the Mariners are playing the White Sox in this series. You came up as a White Sox player, made your debut with the White Sox, and it's interesting because I was a huge fan of yours when you first came in the league because my dad's a White Sox
Really?
fan, so I was watching a lot of White Sox games early. You were number 24. I liked all number 24s because of Ken Griffey at the time, so I was
Yeah.
on the Mike Cameron radar long ago. But what do you remember about your debut with the White Sox in the mid 90s?
What I remember about my debut was I was playing in Birmingham, Alabama, and I remember Terry Francona was my manager at the time, and we were playing very well down in Birmingham. And he told me, he's like, "Hey, by the way, yeah, look, I know we just got through playing or whatever, but hey, you got called to the big leagues." I was like, "What? Me? Why? Why am I going to the big leagues? What did I do?" Just this is my first season in Double A, and it's August, and I don't the feeling. I mean, I was trying to talk him out of it. One, because we were playing so well, but that's the mentality is like, man, I'm going to the big leagues. Like, are you serious? Like, this was just a dream. Like, it's literally happening. And man, I just remember I didn't go to sleep that night. I think the White Sox at the time were playing 2 day games on a Saturday and a Sunday day game in Toronto. We had just played that Friday night game in Birmingham, and we were just sitting around the clubhouse and just talking and talking to Sam Harrison like we always do, and just kind of like shooting, just talking baseball and whatever. And he called me in the office, and I'm like, man, the game's over. We won. What did I do wrong? And he was just telling me that you're going to the big leagues, and I'm just like, what? I mean, it's crazy. And so I had to pack up all my stuff that night and drive to Atlanta and sleep in the car until my flight was leaving early that Saturday morning. And when I got there, like, I mean, come on, Brady, I'm 22 years old and just turned 22 years old and was just kind of like finding myself as a player, starting to show signs of, you know, maturation. And man, got there and like couldn't believe it. And first of all, I'm debuting in Toronto. I'm in another country debuting. So it was just that opportunity that I got, man. And I just remember getting to the ballpark that day. I was so tired and so sleepy. It was a day game. I remember going back to the hotel, watched that first game, and I fell asleep like really early after the game was over. And I woke up in the middle of the night, in the middle of the night with a nightmare because I thought I was late because I
Yep.
went to sleep so early. I passed out because of just the adrenaline that I was on. And man, I woke up and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh man, thank God I'm not late for the game. And they told me I was starting the next day. And I was facing Al Leiter. I had no idea. I'd never seen no cutters and nothing like that. I've seen a slider and a fastball and a changeup and a breaking ball. A cutter? What the heck is that? And so I remember the next day, it was getaway day. So we're leaving, and I got this big, large suitcase with all of my stuff in there. And and um and I'm on the bus and I go to the clubhouse and my first time and I'm looking for my name at the bottom of the lineup, just whatever. I'm hitting second in front of Frank Thomas and behind I'm hitting in front of Frank Thomas and I'm hitting behind Tim Raines. And I'm like, what okay. Okay. I didn't even hit the top of the lineup when I was on my double A team. So I was in the middle for it. So it was just a whirlwind of emotions and uh uh thoughts, dreams, just everything, man. I don't even know. I was just as prepared as I could possibly be. I kept contemplating, was I going to swing at the first pitch or not? Um, and, I don't know if we got time, but I got a quick little story. It was like,
Yes.
so, we're sitting there and you go through the warm up stuff, and it's Sunday day game. They got the roof open, and Toronto was I think they were okay. This is right after the strike. So everyone was kind of getting back into. Um, I thought people are starting to shed payroll or whatever it was, and my opportunity came because I think our team traded. No, they didn't trade anybody. It just brought me up to the
Just
big
brought you
leagues.
up.
And yeah. So man, like, and I didn't understand. I felt like I was ready as a baseball player, but I wasn't ready for the big leagues at that time. But the experience alone gave me the biggest boost of confidence. And this day in Toronto, I was hitting second, and I remember um, Tim Raines getting up and I'm on deck, and I think I'm gonna get a couple swings in and kind of get my body loose or whatever. First pitch, he swings at the first pitch, and I'm like, oh man, like it's my turn. And I was so nervous. My feet felt like they had cinder blocks on them. My legs wouldn't hardly move. And I was just so nervous. And I think I don't know if I swung at the first pitch or whatever it was. I can't recall, but I remember swinging at one of those like little cutters that Al Leiter was on. And the thing almost went between my legs. And I looked in the dugout and everybody was laughing. And then I was like, okay, like it's normal. Like this is normal. But I was just in a hurry to hit and just trying to get that energy out, man. And I thought I had a double, like I hit a ball down the third baseline, and Ed Sprague dove and caught it. I thought I had a double, and I looked up. He was throwing the ball to second base, and then I just kind of saw it out the corner of my eye. And man, by the time they threw the ball to first base, I think I was coming back to first base. I was running so fast. It was just like that kind of crazy. But after that, I kind of settled down a little bit. Just always in awe of the pitching that was there that you saw on TV. And so that was kind of my debut. I didn't get a hit that day, but I had some, pretty good at bats. So it made me feel good. And then, as they say, man, the rest was history. I mean, the tenure or stories that come along with, playing the game of baseball. And, I just had a joy, the joy of playing the sport that I love since I was a kid and to dream about it. And now I'm actually doing it with some of the people that I grew up watching and seeing. And man, it was just a great thing, man. Like I was so excited to be a part of something like that. And then being a 22-year-old kid in Chicago, living downtown is just kind of crazy, in itself.
I've always been a big baseball card guy, and I've got binders and binders of baseball cards. I went back into the archives for this one. This is one of the original Mike Cameron rookie cards. You still look the same today as you did in this picture. How you still look the same?
I tell you what, Brady, I wish, man. I mean, I guess I was fortunate with some good genes at one, and then, try to take care of myself. But I wish I did feel like that little young fella on that front of that card right there. I can tell you that. That's for sure.
I told you this too, right? I haven't told you this story before. We've talked 2 or 3 times before on the air. We met in spring training. I did not tell you the story. I was saving it for the podcast. I must have been, man, I don't know. I must have been 10 or 12, but I sent you this in the mail, and you sent it back to me. So I told you I'd always been a Mike Cameron fan for a lot of reasons, but this is one of them as well. So I don't know how many mail requests for autographs you got, but you made time for mine, and I've always appreciated that.
Man, I got like 2 envelopes full right now that I got to go through that I haven't went through. I just went through some like a week or 2 ago, and probably about 50 of them that I signed up and sent them off. But I try to get to them, man. The one thing that I learned from Jerry Harrison Sr. I mean, he was on I think he was in community relations part of Chicago White Sox, and he always come down. He used to tell me, he said, "Hey, man, if someone takes the time to write to you, you don't got to do all of them, but take the time to send something back to someone because these are fans that had the same dream that you had when you were little, and just take the time to always be respectable enough where you can try to do something for a kid or whatever it may be, regardless of whatever they decide to do with it. Like you done your job, and that's what it's all about. That's what the experience is all about."
Well, we're going on 20 plus years, and I still got it, so it's still right in one of those binders. So I appreciated that at the time, and I'm sure all those other fans did as well. I did want to ask you this: we're talking about your debut. We saw Colt Emerson make his debut on Sunday. And kind of like you, he did not get a hit, but we saw him have some good
Mm-hmm.
at-bats, had a walk, hit a ball hard to right field. You've been around him at spring training. What makes Colt
Yeah.
Emerson special?
Just his aura, man. I mean, he's a little arrogant, as all 20-something-year-old kids that are on the field with big leagues that know that they can play a little bit. And I think that just his aura in itself. He's a hard worker, very vigilant. And, as all young players are, they take everything to the heart. And any struggle that thinking they're supposed to dominate all the time. Mentality is dominant, but man, he's just an all around. I guess he's one of those all around American kids. Got great parents, and the guy looks good. I mean, he's got great hair, and so he can play baseball at a high level at such a young age. And so to be able to be composed to understanding all of that and knowing that like his debut was just anticipated. We don't never know when the debuts are. This has been highly anticipated since signing this long-term deal, which is highly unusual. Um, and what is going on today, like normally you got to play a little bit to find out if you can do this at this level. So, I mean, I guess it's just a new wave of what they're doing, but obviously he's been a very really, really good player against a lot of great competition. And so to be able to see any of these guys get a chance to make their debuts is pretty special, especially when you've seen them, grinding in the minor leagues on the backfields and everything else. No matter how good you are, whatever it is, the anxiety that you get playing that first game, man, and you're trying to hone all of that and play the game in itself. But man, it's just great, to be able to get a look at him right now and see where he's at, and also getting a run. That's the biggest thing about rookie players is, like you've been so good and you play every day in the minor leagues, and then they come to the big, you get called up, you graduate to the big leagues, and then you don't play every day, and it's like, huh? Like the hardest level. This is the hardest level and I can't play every day, like this is how you find out. And so, hopefully there's just an opportunity for him to get a chance to get a run so you can get comfortable, calm that energy down so you can actually focus on just being the talent that you are and competing against the guys that they say that you're ready to compete against.
I'll get you out of here on this. I enjoyed your message on the video board at Randy Johnson's number retirement. That was a good laugh there. So I'm sure we will see you again on the field at T-Mobile in August for the 50th year celebrations and the 50 greatest players in Mariners history. It hasn't been released yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're going to be on it. What's it going to be like to get back in Seattle and spend time with so many different generations of Mariners players in a couple of months?
Well, first of all, it will be just an honor to be able to be on the field with them selecting me, to be a part of this, this great history. I'm fortunate to be on the field with Ken Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson and some of the older guys and Jay Buhner. Like this is like wow, like it's kind of like full circle, man. Like I'm out here with some of the best players that came through here since 1977, and now I get a chance to be on the field with them, and people are celebrating me, man. To be a part of this in the organization. So I'm very grateful in that sense, and man, just how my path came across Seattle and baseball, which I never thought that was a part of, and it just so happens to be the biggest part of my career and the biggest part of my history playing the game of baseball, and I'm just forever grateful for that.
Well, Mariners fans forever grateful for your tenure from 2000 to 2003, an all-star appearance, multiple gold gloves in his career as well, part of the 116-win Mariners and the ALCS Mariners in 2000 and 2001. I was at Game 1 of the 2000 ALCS when the Mariners beat the Yankees. Freddie Garcia, Denny Nagel, A-Rod homered for the good guys. Still a memory that's imprinted on my brain. So, Mike, much appreciated as always. I look forward to catching up with you again on a road trip or in Seattle again the next time.
Definitely, Brady. Thank you for having me.
All right, that was Mike Cameron, former Mariners outfielder. And for those of you that were listening on the audio front, I did show Mike Cameron a couple of baseball cards. One, his rookie card with the White Sox, but two, an autographed card he gave me at, whatever I said, age 10 or 12, if he was a Red at the time, or maybe he was a Mariner, but I didn't have a Mariners card of him yet, but an autographed card from Mike Cameron. If you heard it on audio but didn't see it on video, I'll make sure to put the highlight clip out on social media. Mike Cameron, one of the good ones, a guy I've been happy to get to know and interact with a couple of times. We've had him on this podcast a couple of times as well. So good stuff from Mike Cameron. Good stuff from all of you. As always, we appreciate you listening. Remember, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also check us out on YouTube at Refuse to Lose Territory and at MarinersRoundtable.com, where myself and Taryn Kovac do what we hope is a great job bringing you everything that you need to know. Mariners 23-26, one game back of the A's in the American League West, tied with the Texas Rangers. The Mariners and White Sox will do battle again on Tuesday night. We'll be back at it on Thursday with Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider, planning a special guest for Friday as well, trying to make that happen. I'll have some confirmation, hopefully, over the next 24 hours or so since this comes out. But appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate everybody reading. Join the community at MarinersRoundtable.com and follow us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Mariners White Sox on Tuesday. We'll talk to you on Thursday. And as always, go M's.